The opinions and views expressed in the following program are those of the speakers and the host, and do not necessarily reflect those of Yoakley Scott Corporation and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? But can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look in my soul. I've been afraid I would follow the road. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
Hello, everybody. Welcome inside this wonderful Tuesday episode of Running Point on ysnlive.com. Brought to you, as always, by our good friends over at Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Going to put them up in the top right corner so you know where to go if you are in the market for a new or used vehicle. It is our friends over at Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. They go the extra mile for you, so you don't have to. We try to do the same here on this show every single day, and we will continue to do so throughout the rest of our existence here on Running Point. We thank Greenwood Chevrolet for their sponsorship since day one of the show, through all the twists and turns Running Point has taken. And obviously, we also thank them for their support of everything that we do on the network. We couldn't do it without our wonderful sponsors like Greenwood Chevrolet. So if you, once again, are in the market for a new or used vehicle, make sure to head on down to Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown, where they'll take care of you in a heartbeat. We got some stuff to talk about today. We're going to start with a Class B recap as we turn our attention to Bob Seam Park and Class B baseball going on throughout the summer now that high school season is officially under wraps for YSN. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring up the Class B screen for you so you can see what I'm looking at when we go over the scores and results of Class B baseball from last night. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit on this so you guys can see it too. I actually don't know how to do that. So we're just going to go into the first box score, which is Ballistic Baseball, who beat Avalanche 4-0. That's actually pretty big. I think you guys can see it, 4-0. And this is kind of the tone of last night's games. A lot of really good pitching. Ballistic started us off with a 4-0 shutout over the Avalanche. And you look at the box score and the pitching stats, as Gabe Rusnak, we know him from Hubbard, pitched the gym. 7 innings complete, only 6 hits, no earned runs. And what I really like is that walk to strikeout ratio. We saw a couple of pitching performances like this yesterday as well. 6 strikeouts, no walks, and he did it in 100 pitches even. Rusnak with a great day for Ballistic Baseball. One of the big contributors on offense was, of course, Tyler Wright, going 2 for 3, 2 RBI for him. We saw RBIs also on multiple hit days from Josh Wolf and TJ Border, both going 2 for 4 with an RBI. All 4 runs for Ballistic were knocked in by hitters. 1 for 3 with a run scored was Donovan Sullivan, and a walk as well for him. So he had a good day for Ballistic as they get the win. Over here on the Avalanche side, they had Hayden Scarmack having multiple hits. He was the only hitter in the lineup with more than 1 hit. 2 for 3 day for him. We also saw some other players there that you can see get a hit. Jack Strausser with a 1 for 3 day. Drew Golt 1 for 3. Bennett Haney 1 for 3 as well. And then down there at the bottom, you can see that Santino Piccirilli with a 1 for 3 day as well. I like that they, struck out 6 times, but a lot of hitters stayed away from the strikeout Unfortunately, this one hitter with multiple strikeouts, DJ Donatelli, with 2. Not bad pitching from the Avalanche either, as Tyson Jakovic had a 6 1/3 innings pitched day. He gave up 3 earned runs, struck out 6, and walked just 1. I'm sure he wants to give up less than 10 hits, but when you give up 10 hits and only give up 3 earned runs, that means you're doing a pretty good job at managing some sticky situations for the Avalanche pitching. So a pretty well pitched game. Ballistic gets to win 4-0. You can see the breakdown of the innings. Ballistic scoring 1 in the second, 1 in the fourth, and then 2 in the seventh to win 4-0 over the Avalanche. Let's go back to the next game on our schedule, and it was the Athletics playing Eagleware. And the box score here is another shutout, this time from Athletics, 6-0, the final score there. And it was another great pitching performance from Alex Nicholson. 7 innings pitched, only gave up 1 hit, no earned runs, struck out 9, walked none. You can't pitch much better than that. On the offensive side, Athletics was led by a couple of hitters that had 1 RBI. But the multiple hits came from CJ Frasco, 2 for 4 on the day, 1 RBI to his credit. 3 walks drawn by Zach Pleska. He gets an RBI. 1 for 4 day there for Tyler Wardle, who goes 1 for 4 with an RBI himself. And then, I think I caught all the RBI. Sorry. Baden Pibbley with a 1 for 4 day and an RBI as well. Eagleware, tough day at the plate for them. Just the 1 hit, and it was Zach Linsky who gets it. And you can see the pitching down there. Only 5 earned runs, 2 of them by their starter, Dylan James, who pitched a pretty good 2 in the third inning, giving up 1 hit, 2 earned runs. The walks, though, a little bit elevated, and that's what ended up dooming the Eagleware pitching staff. Not necessarily the hits they gave up, but the free bases they gave up via the walk. So 6-0 Athletics gets the win there. We go into the next game, and it is going to be Dura Edge versus Whiting in the 18U division, of course. And this one, another great pitching performance from Whiting, getting the shutout. 10-0 Whiting rolls in this one. As we see the hitters for Whiting, big day from Ben Miller, 2 for 2, 3 RBI. We also had a big day from Nick Peralta, going 2 for 2 with 2 RBI himself. RBI on the day from Kason Holland, 2 for 3 on his day as well. 7 RBIs total from Whiting. And then Jack Ray with the great pitching performance, going 5 innings, giving up just 1 hit, striking out 9, walking 4. A great performance from him. Another 1-hitter, 2 1-hitters on the day yesterday. As we see the first 3 games end in shutout fashion. Whiting with the best offensive performance that we saw last night so far, but that's about to be one-upped by the next game, which is Creekside and Nightline. This one was an offensive slugfest, and it is Nightline that gets to win 13-11. A lot of offense to go over here. For Nightline, a big day from Andrew Brown. What can Brown do for you? Well, he can knock in 3 runs on a 2 for 2 day, score a run as well. Then you had 2 RBIs driven in by Nate Freeland, 1 for 2 on his day with a run scored, and a pair of RBIs as well. And then you also got an RBI from Andrew McRoberts, going 1 for 3 with a run scored. Pitching-wise, it was 3 pitchers that did it. Tyler Cappan from Lakeview pitched an inning for them. And then you had Caden Malfoot with the 4 innings, and he picks up the win. He struck out 8, walked 3, 8 strikeouts total by Nightline pitching. Creekside had a good offensive day as well in the loss, as we see 2 RBIs from Caleb Hadley, going 2 for 3 with 2 RBI and 1 walk drawn as well. 3 RBIs from Tyler Milliken from West Branch. He drew a walk on a 2 for 3 day. 4 RBIs at the bottom of the order from Owen Mandler, going 3 for 4 with 4 runs batted in 3 runs scored. A great day at the plate for him. Jake Patterson also a 3-for-4 day as well, going with 1 RBI. So a lot of offense in this one, a lot of big bats, but it is Nightline that gets the last laugh as we go up to the inning breakdown. Nightline comes out to an 8-0 lead, a 10-0 lead, and eventually we're up by the score of 13-1 before Creekside scored 6 in the 5th and 4 in the 6th, trying to come back, but then Nightline was able to shut it down in the 7th and get the win 13-11. So we go back to the schedule from last night and the last game of the day. It wasn't reported on the website, but we have a great source in Coach Pletcher that tweets out his results. So I want to get the score there off Twitter real quick. Astro Falcons last night got the win 12-2 over the Prospects in that 18U action there. So 12-2, the Astros get the win on Monday night, and the rest of the games we obviously just went over. Let's go into the standings and see where we sit just a week or so into play in Class B baseball. It is the Astro Falcons with a 7-0 record right now, sitting at the top. Below them, Whiting with 6-2 and Ballistic 6-2. Athletics is 5-3, and then you have Nightline at 4-4, Avalanche at 3-5, Creekside at 3-5, Prospects at 2-5, Dura Edge at 2-6, and then Eagleware sitting at the bottom at 1-7. The next games for 18U will be on, as tonight is going to be 16U night. Let's look at the schedule for tonight's action in 16U Class B baseball. So we bring up the game schedule. All this can be found on the Class B website, by the way. And at 5:30 to start things off on Scene 3, it's going to be the Avalanche versus the Prospects in 16U. Athletics are going to take on Ballistic on Scene 1 at 6 o'clock. And then at 8 o'clock, it's going to be Creekside Fitness versus Whiting on Scene 3. On Scene 2, Eagleware takes on Dura Edge. That's going to be at 8:15. And then Nightline will take on the Astro Falcons on Scene 1 at 8:30. I'm going to go into our spreadsheet and tell you who's going to be on the call tonight in Scene Park. And let's see, tonight we're going to have Tim Corso going to be on the call for the 5:30 game. Matt Marr going to be on Scene 2. And then Cooper Chavone is going to be on Scene 1. So Tim Corso, Matt Marr, and Cooper Chavone are going to be on the call for your games tonight at Scene Park for 16U action, which should be a fun one. Starting at 5:30, going all the way until 8:30 is your first pitch of the nightcap. Let's look at the 16U standings real quick before we start the action. Is the Astro Falcons, just like 18U leading the way, they are 6-2, tied with Creekside Fitness at 6-2 as well. Avalanche right behind them at 5-3, tied with the Prospects and Whiting, both 5-3 as well. Athletics is 4-4, along with Dura Edge, Nightline 3-5, and then Ballistic and Eagleware rounding out the standings at 1-7 each. So you see a lot of condensed play right now, as there's a tie for first and a three-way tie for second. So tonight could really play a big factor in trying to divvy up these standings and get a little bit more separation for some of these teams. I'll let you look at the schedule one more time as you looked at the standings, and that's how we'll look here tonight at Class B baseball. Stories and recaps and stats can all be found at ysnlive.com after the games are done. quick reminder to ignore the links that we get that are spam links in the comments, whether they be on our shows. We saw them get flooded on our state championship broadcasts. Anyone that posts a link to our on our broadcast, whether they be shows or games, is trying to get you to go to a fake website and obviously do some nefarious things once you go there. I'm not going to put it up, but we do have a comment like that on our Facebook page. So just a quick reminder to do not follow any links off to our games with our teams other than the one that is YSN. There are no other places that broadcast games like we do. So please do not fall for the scams that are coming up on Facebook in our comments. I was really frustrated trying to delete all of our comments over the weekend that were spam. They were just flooded with it, flooded with them, and they were out in full force over the weekend with the state semifinals and the state championship games. Gonna put that back up and put myself back up. That was their Class B recap. Once again, action tonight in 16U, and you can find the schedule if you missed it on the Youngstown Class B website. And we are excited to continue our coverage of Class B baseball throughout the summer. Should be fun. I want to talk a little bit now that we've done our recaps about the track stars that have won the state titles, and I'm going to try to recap as much as I can. There's obviously a lot of track people that went on and got to the podium. I want to talk about a couple of them specifically. We're also going to try to get as many as possible on the show in the next week or so, so I'm going to save some stuff for when we get those people on. Obviously, we're kind of gathering all the results and trying to reach out to as many people as possible to get some track coverage and really give some flowers to people that went on, not just to win state, but anytime you get on the podium in the state run, that is very impressive to do. So one of the guys that you got to mention, though, is Caleb Nastari. And his journey, his awesomeness started on Friday in the 4x8 relay, which the finals were on Friday. Every other final, I believe, was on Saturday. But the 4x8, this is crazy. Okay, so one I want to talk about, before I talk about Caleb and what he was able to do on the weekend, I want to mention that the NFHS that did the track broadcast for the OHSAA was a glaring example why we at YSN are trying to get into broadcasting track. Everyone asks us every spring, are you going to do track this year? We just tell them we're not there yet. We're not there yet. We don't have the ability, the capability to do it because we don't want to do things wrong. It's why we took some time to do soccer. And last season, we did a great job finally getting some soccer out there to us. It is because we just don't want to do things wrong for these athletes. And the NFHS broadcasters were great. Like the announcers were awesome. They knew what they were doing. They brought energy to it. But it is really hard to do track with one camera. And the broadcast this weekend proved exactly why. And I think the 4x8 relay was a great example of why it's so hard. So their game plan with a one camera setup was pretty much follow the leader on the straightaways to have the one shot of the leader. And then when you get to the turns, zoom out for a second, catch up with everyone, and then zoom back in on the leader and follow him down the straightaway, which is one of the camera shots you would use if you were covering track in a multi-camera setup. You know, if you watch the Olympics, they have a lot of cameras, but the basic ones are one in the corner that you can see down the straightaways, like running at you, so you see the faces, because we love to see faces of the runners. And then you have one tight camera, which is following a runner, whether it be the leader or one of the ones they're talking about. But then the third camera, which I think is the important one to have if you're doing the track meet broadcast, is the wide shot where you can see everybody running and you know you can tell who's where. You can't do both, right? You can't have a tight shot and a wide shot with one camera. You got to pick and choose. And of course, NFHS must have made the decision that they wanted to key in and make sure they got the hero or the leader, I guess I should say, throughout the meet, throughout the run. The one downside to that, actually, the two downsides to that, one, what happened in the 4x8 relay was one of the glaring examples why that is not a great thing to do with one camera. And then A lot of people, you got to pay for that NFHS broadcast, and it's a monthly subscription too. It's not like a one-time payment. So you're putting down some money to do it, and they pay and they want to watch their kid run, or the person they're supporting run, and unless they're leading the pack, you almost never see them in the heat, which I'm sure a lot of people were kind of upset about as well. But here's how the 4x8 went. All right, so um, the first three legs, the one team was leading by a pretty sizable margin, and once again, the camera was just following the leader down the straightaways, zooming out on the turns, and putting back on the leader in the straightaways. So you only saw the leader, and the broadcasters were great. So Caleb Nastari is the anchor for United's 4x8, right? So he's the last one to get the baton. He has to run. When he gets it, United is in, I think, like sixth place, right? So he gets it. And for the first like 10 or 15 seconds, it's just, the broadcast is going smooth and everything, status quo. But then the broadcasters start getting really excited. Nastari, he's in fifth place. He's in fourth place. He's coming up on the leaders. He's making a great comeback. They're like getting into it. But all you saw from the camera angle was just that leader. So they're telling you what's happening, but you can't see it, right? So Nastari is coming up. He's in fourth place. He's in third place. Broadcasters are like, oh my gosh, this is one of the best runs we've ever seen. He's amazing. Yada yada yada. But you can't see him. You don't know what he's doing. You're just hearing it. And then all of a sudden you see Nastari come up in the camera shot and take over first place. And obviously he won, they won. The relay won the 4x8. But, all that excitement and all that awesome, to come back from sixth. And one of the downfalls of having one camera, and which is the reason why we're kind of hesitant to touch it until we're able to do it right. One of the downfalls is you didn't see it, right? You didn't see it because you were locked in on the leader, and all the viewers could do was just listen to the announcers lose their mind about what Nastari was doing and never really see what was happening. And that's a shame, because if you would have saw him make up from sixth place all the way to first, that would have been something incredible to see. But you only heard it. But it was a great call. So great call. I don't know who was calling the state for the NFHS broadcast. Great call. They nailed it. But unfortunately, because they made the decision to have the one camera just locked in on the leader, you didn't see it. You didn't see it, which was kind of frustrating. Also, with one camera, this is one of the things that if you're going to have one camera and you're going to be tight, you're going to be doing a lot of side-to-side movement, right? You're going to be, and that can make people really seasick. And I was watching it like, ooh, 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 whoa, quick movements. That's why, for volleyball, you don't see the camera be jerky, one side to one side, one side to one in the TV broadcast, or that's why tennis is right behind. So you're not doing this. Doing this a lot is not good TV, right? And when you're tight on one runner and they're running down a straightaway, and then you're zooming out and you're zooming back in, you're doing a lot of camera movement side to side, a lot of quick camera movement, which for me, for example, it just makes you a little topsy-turvy. And probably a lot of other people feel the same way about watching a broadcast like that. If you have one, if I was making the decisions, I would have just had a wide shot. I know that means you can't really see a lot of detail or anything, and you just kind of seen a bunch of small action figures running across the track. But it's better than not only seeing one runner and not seeing anybody else for the whole meet. And that's just one of the reasons why track with one camera is so hard to do, and why we're waiting until we can do it right. We want to do it at Ysn. We cover track. We do the track interviews. But we want to make sure we do it right if we're going to do a live broadcast. It's the same. We had the same deal with soccer. We wanted to wait until we had people that could talk about soccer very educatedly, and we would give the respect to soccer that it deserved on the broadcast. We got that. We got that squared away. We work, and I think we've proven to our very patient viewers that wanted soccer for so long that we were working for it, and we got it. Like this fall, we put on more soccer games than we had in a year past. So trust me when I say we're working towards it. We're getting there. We just have to get there. And we're going to make sure that we are there before we do it. We're not going to do it just to do it. You know what I'm saying? The runners in this area deserve a lot more than just to do it to do it. and do it wrong. We want to do it right. We want to do it the right way. So we pride ourselves on at YSN. So, by the way, back to Caleb Nastari. He does that, which was incredible in its own right. So then the next day, he's running in the 800 final. And before the run starts, he has every state record you could have. I mean, he broke it last year, and then he broke his own this year. He has the D3 tournament record. The only record he was missing was the overall record for in that stadium. So the state final record overall. So all across all divisions. He had the D3 state final record. He just needed to beat Nick Plant's overall Jesse Owens record inside that stadium. Not the state record for any time you do it. I think Nastari already had that. He already had the state overall record. He just needed the state tournament record, which was like the last record to fall that he needed to get in the 800. He needed a I want to say it was 148.6, somewhere in those 0.6s. I can't remember the exact number. He got 148.31, so he broke the state record for the state tournament overall across all divisions. He won the 800 by almost 4 seconds, which is just ridiculous, and he goes away as a state champion. Awesome. He is what we call a unicorn, freak of nature. One of the best runs in the nation, I think. I think it was the best run in the nation this year. I was doing some research, and the NCAA record for the 800, I believe, was 146. So he's at 148.31, and he is going to Penn State. He's right, he got a little bit of work to do, but he's right there trying to break into some of the best runners that ever have run it in the college ranks. So for those of you that don't know, I've been told pretty well that Penn State is a very, very good running school. So he's going to Penn State to beat Nittany Lion, and the broadcasters were all over that during his race, and he was leading it the whole way. So, hey, Caleb Nastari fans, in that race, you saw everything that he did because he pretty much led it from jump to finish. The 800 is probably, in my mind, and I know I am not a runner. There's a shocker. I do not know what it takes to run like that, but I would imagine that the 800 is one of the hardest to do because you're in that in-between thing, right? So if you're running a 1600, you really want to pace yourself for probably the last 2 laps and really get there. If you're in the 400, it's a dead sprint. You're running hard, but you're in the 800. It's like, do you run hard? When do you kind of decide to pace yourself for? It's in that in-between section. I feel like it'd probably be one of the harder runs to race. And I think Nastari was just booking it from the start. It didn't even look like he had to pace himself. The endurance that he had to run seemed like at 100% throughout the whole run. Nuts. It's one of those things. It's just like, it's an athlete. You can't explain it. It's just the athletic. He got the athletic gene, and he's worked his tail off to flex it and to get it to where it needs to be at that level. But I think there's also something inside that gives you that ability to work, not an ability to work, but the ability that the hard work will get you to a higher level, because everyone works hard, right? But not everyone's running a 148.31. There's something God-given there to go along with the extremely high amount of hard work that he puts into his craft. It's a good mix. You gotta have God-given abilities, but then you also have to work hard with it. And I think Caleb Nastari definitely has both of those for sure. A lot of other track stuff happened that we want to get to, that we want to give flowers to throughout the rest of the week. So stay tuned to Running Point throughout the rest of the week. We are working hard to get track runners that either made the podium, had a really good state run, and had a great experience in a state, or of course our state champions. We're working hard to get them interviewed and get them on the show and get them their flowers on YSN. So one is a shout out to, if you are a track star out there that had a great run at state and you want to be interviewed, never turn it down. Reach out to us on any social media page. We will get you squared away. And then if you have gotten something from us, get back to us. We'd love to schedule an interview with you and get you your time in the sun, day in the sun, for having such a great weekend in Columbus for the state run. So that being said, we're going to take our break of the day. When we come back, we'll have more Running Point. As always, it is brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Back in a minute.
At Greenwood Chevrolet, we offer a worry-free experience for all our customers.
From sales to financing and even service, we'll help build your perfect vehicle
and lock in your trade value
while your vehicle is being built.
No worries.
We guarantee financing,
regardless of your situation or credit history.
No worries. And when your vehicle needs service,
our award-winning team will get you back on the road.
No worries.
That's what going the extra mile means. Only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Change. This one word can make you break out in a cold sweat. But with change comes wisdom, experience, and understanding. At Myers Family Insurance, we can help make changes in Medicare, insurance, and retirement a positive experience for you and your family. We've gone through changes, like our new office and new faces to help our family of clients too.
For all your Medicare needs, call Myers Family Insurance.
Check us out online at myersfamilyins.com
or find us on Facebook.
You're not waiting to see what the world has in store for you. It's more about what you have in store for the world. All you need is the opportunity. All you need are the resources of a large university and the advantages of a personalized academic setting where you can experience new worlds in the arts and sciences, business, and education and make them your own. We are where you shape your future. We are Youngstown State University and proud.
Hi, I'm Colin Chupa.
And I'm Kelsey Clem from K-Squared Marketing.
Our boutique marketing firm specializes in media planning and buying, public relations, event marketing strategies, and strategic sponsorships.
We can integrate our services with your existing game plan, or we can be your entire marketing team.
Your goals, our game plan.
Let's win together. Call K-Squared Marketing at 330-623-2730 or visit ksquared.marketing to learn more.
We believe expectations are made to be exceeded. At the new Toyota of Warren, it's about more than just getting a great deal. It's about service you can count on and a friendship you can trust. Year after year, we've done what we do best. We've gone the extra mile so you could too. Because we know it's just not about buying a new car. It's the start of a new adventure. Toyota of Warren, driven by you.
Welcome back to Running Point on ysnlive.com, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Anthony Hartwig with you. And what we want to do now is I want to talk a little bit more about softball. And one of the things that I saw in the World Series last night that trickles down into something I want to talk about for the state tournament runs, teams that make the state tournament. Real quick here. So one of the things that happened last night, if you were watching the World Series, Florida State, Tennessee semifinal last night, one of the things that went on was in one of the innings, I think it was the fourth inning, Florida State's pitcher about 4 times was called for an illegal pitch where they broke it down what she was doing. They had a camera locked in on her feet, and there was 2 things that she was doing wrong. They had the rules expert come in and say, this is what was illegal, this is what was illegal. And I don't think the Twitter universe for softball and the announcers even weren't upset that it wasn't illegal, because I think you could tell from the video replay that she was doing the 2 things that were illegal. One, she was, when you're set, the only thing you can do with your back foot is move it forward. And then she was also having both feet in the air at once. So she wasn't dragging her back foot. So the announcers and the softball Twitter, universe out there that I follow quite a bit, they were both kind of upset, not at the fact that it wasn't illegal, because it was, once again, it was pretty clear that she was doing what was wrong. What made people upset was that it's not called a lot in the regular season. It's not called, and then all of a sudden it starts getting called in the big stage, right? The World Series 4 times. And, the Florida State's coach, Lonnie Alameda, came on to the broadcast, and she said that she hasn't been called for an illegal pitch all year, and now she's being called for 3 of them. So they're upset with consistency. And one of the things I think is the key difference in when things are being called at the World Series compared to the regular season, then we'll go back into the high school realm and talk about our local games, why things are called more at state than you see them in the regular season. And one of the big reasons is for the World Series and for state, there's an extra umpire on the field. And I think people don't realize that. Like, there are 4 umpires on the field in the World Series now, and there's usually 3 in college pretty consistently. So when you're a 4th umpire, you have another set of eyes. So one umpire, and it was the third base one for Florida State's game, can watch really closely what the pitcher is doing, because now there's another umpire to take over other duties that they would have if it was a 3 umpire crew. So now you have the third base umpire. One of the things they're doing is watching the pitcher like a hawk. So you're going to get called more because there's going to be a bigger chance that the umpire sees what you're doing wrong and then nail you for it. Obviously, the solution, not the easy solution, but the logical solution would be, hey, just put 4 umpires all the time. But obviously, that's just not going to be feasible. We have an umpire shortage, not just in high school, but in college. And have 4 umpires everywhere in every college game throughout the regular season, it's just not going to happen. They put it there for the World Series to make sure they get stuff right. But it is going to make things called a little bit more consistently. We see out of the box called a little bit more consistently during the tournament because there are 4 umpires. So there's 1 umpire. It's usually the second base one, back and behind second, that is watching the batter and watching to make sure that their foot stays in the box. In college, it's any part of the foot out of the box. High school, it's a whole foot out of the box. So if we talk about consistency, we also have to talk about the fact that it's not like the umpires are out to get people, or it's not like they're wanting to make the calls extra tight because it's just a championship atmosphere and they expect you to be on a different level than you were in the regular season. It's simply there are more eyes on the field to see it, right? So you have to be a little bit more fine-tuned because now there's someone who's watching you and can tell you, hey, that was illegal. Now you go back to the high school level, there are more umpires at that state field than there are in the regular season. In the regular season, most high school games have 2 umpires. 2 things that you're almost never going to see called in a 2 umpire crew unless it is egregious are out of the box and illegal pitches. Like I've almost never seen one called in high school in the regular season on either one of those calls. And if I did, it was so painstakingly obvious that like it had to be called. Like, if a batter literally steps on the plate, like, yeah, their whole foot is 2 feet out of the box. Of course, they're going to be called for that. But, most of the time, high school players can get away with a foot outside the box in the regular season or a little bit of a hop in their pitching, which is the one thing that a lot of pitchers do get away with, and why it's so hard for them to all of a sudden not be able to do that in state. And that's why you saw the Lebanon pitcher, Aubrey Smith, be called for multiple illegal pitches in that pitch game. And I wasn't there, so I don't know exactly what she was doing illegal, but if I had to guess, because 90% of illegal pitches in my experience have been, taking the back foot off the ground and not dragging it. But you're never called for that during the regular season. You have no one there to tell you, like, hey, that's illegal. You have no one. So unless you have a coach that is watching you and, being honest with you and saying, hey, you're not getting called for it because there aren't enough umpires to really see you, but that is illegal. And we're going to have to work on that. Unless you have someone that's doing that, which a lot of high school coaches aren't, because I see a lot of illegal pitches during the regular season. So unless you have someone that's doing that for you, and there's no real way to adjust during the regular season. There's no real way to get out of that habit. And a lot of pitchers will have at least one pitch. And some big name pitchers chimed in on this last night. Like, no pitchers that go through their whole career never have a stretch where they're being illegal. It's just one of the things, like you're trying not to drag your foot, but hey, with the rise ball, you're so focused on getting up so you can get back down under the ball. That you see a lot of rise ball pitchers, especially in high school, they're jumping. They're taking that foot off the dirt. It's quick and you have to be able to see it, but it happens. So to ask someone to all of a sudden say, hey, we have extra eyes on you, so we're going to call that. It's not a wrong call because it is illegal by the law, by the rule. So if the umpire sees it, they got to call it but it's kind of like one of those catch-22s where you can't blame the umpires for calling it when they see it because there are more umpires on the field now. But it's also, I get where it's really, really tough for these athletes to have something not be called all season long and never have someone really telling you that that's something that you're struggling with. And then all of a sudden, in the biggest game of your life, in a state championship or a state semifinal, you have someone that's watching you for it and you're getting called for it. And you're sitting there like, what am I? And this hasn't been called all year, never been an issue. And now that's in your head. And I've seen a lot of pitchers just honestly fall apart at that level because they can't focus on what they have to do now because they're so locked in on trying to focus on being a legal pitcher. It's a tough situation to be in. And like I said, it's not something that I'm going to sit here and say shame on the umpires for all of a sudden calling it or being sticklers about it in the state, because if you could see it with a 2-umpire crew, they would probably call it too. These umpires want to get things right. They want to have players that follow the rules, but it's just really it's really hard to see an illegal pitch with just 2 umpires that have so much more to focus on as well. It's also really hard to see out of the box, which we saw get called in the state championship game that Fitch was in with Anthony Wayne out of the box. That almost never gets called during the regular season. It got called because there's another umpire that can see it. It's tough. There's no solution. I'm not here saying I have the answer. I'm just trying to have a TED talk about why it happens and why it's becoming something that gets called in those situations. It's not because the umpires think that you should be at some ridiculous higher standard in the state. It's not one of those. Sometimes in basketball, you hear people say, well, that wouldn't be called in the regular season, but you got to call that here in the regionals because these are high-level basketball players that need that to be called. And I don't buy into that. I think if referees see it, whether they see it in the regular season or they see it in a state final, they should call it. And in the basketball case, there's always 3 refs. They don't put an extra ref there for state. So it's just what you see was what you get. So you have consistency there. I don't know. Is your opinion? I'd love to hear it. Is having the extra umpires for a state game worth the risk of having players get called for things that they're not used to getting called for all of a sudden and having to have that in their mind? I don't know. Obviously, there are a lot of benefits to having extra umpires on the field. You're gonna be able to make calls a lot better, make calls a lot easier, and you're not gonna miss nearly as many calls as you would with 2 umpire crews. But then again, there's that catch-22 where you're also gonna have more umpires to be able to see the things that 2 umpire crews can't see that are just going to be called because they're the rules, but obviously not called during the regular season because you can't see them. And the biggest solution would be a call out to coaches that are serious about their pitchers, especially the pitchers that they know, hey, we want to pitch in the next level. Because when you get into college, you're going to have 3 umpires, which is a little bit easier to see in a legal pitch. So if you're a coach out there and you have a pitcher that wants to pitch in college, especially one that you can tell going to be like a high-level college pitcher and have a lot of success as a pitcher in college, make sure you're keeping an eye on the stuff that might not be called, might not affect you during the regular season. You might never see an illegal pitch get called. But if you see it happening, then you should work with them on it, because eventually they're going to get to a spot in their career, whether it be in the state final, whether it be in the state semifinal, whether it be when they step on the college field, where it's going to start to get called. And if they don't have anyone telling them in their corner, like, we need to work on this, we need to adjust this, then it's going to be a shock, hit like a brick wall when they all of a sudden are getting called 4, 5, 6 times a game for leaving the ground. Now, hopefully, this is a rule change year for the college softball world. Hopefully, they do away with the drag foot, because I think it's outdated. It's not in the international game. You're allowed to do it for USA softball. These high level pitchers they're just doing it. And a lot of pitchers have chimed in that it's something that's just it's really hard to avoid. It's with the higher velocities and the more strength that we're seeing out of these pitchers, it's more and more common to see pitchers come out of the air. It's impossible to call it every time it happens, because you're not seeing it, and you're not going to call it every time it happens. So a lot of pitchers, especially the high-level pitchers that have either pitched in college before or are in the professional league now, they're kind of calling to get rid of the drag foot in illegal pitch rule and just let pitchers leave the ground. It doesn't. I mean, apparently it doesn't give them that much of an advantage at that point with that level, and I kind of agree with it because there's no way to call it consistently. You're not going to get it called consistently, and then you run into situations like last night where all of a sudden one umpire decides they see it, and they have to call it when they see it because it is a rule. And like I said, the Florida State pitcher was not. The call was right. You can't argue that. People were arguing the consistency of the call throughout the season. So if it's a rule that you really can't call all that consistently, and you can't seem to nail down when a pitcher is doing it illegally and when she isn't, then let's just stop the frustration and get away with it. Right? So that'd be my opinion. I think the only illegal pitches that should still stay are obviously the footwork rule before the pitch, so you have to stay on the rubber. You can't do anything with your feet other than move them forward once you're set. Those make sense. Staying in the pitching lane makes sense. Because if you go to the left or right of the pitching lane, you're giving yourself a huge advantage to break your ball out or inside. So that should stay. But leaving your foot, have your foot leaving the ground. I think with the way the pitching has evolved over the years and how much velocity has gotten into these pitchers, I would personally just do away with it, which means that everything I just said about teaching your pitchers to drag your foot and trying to keep a lockdown on that would probably be out the window, because even if it won't change in high school, it's very, very rarely called in high school, and then it wouldn't be called when they go into college. So if the college rules committee does come out and say, hey, we're not going to do that rule anymore, we're going to just let the back foot, if it comes in the air, it comes in the air. I would be up for that. And then obviously high school coaches wouldn't have to worry about trying to lock that down with their pitchers that they know are going to go and have successful pitching careers in college. Hey, if the best pitchers in the world aren't held to that standard in the international game, then why are we holding the college pitchers to that standard? It doesn't make sense to me. Every other sport has the college rules a little bit watered down than the pros. And you could argue that the pros for softball are really these players that are playing the World Series and the international players. If they're not asked to, if the international players who are, went and did college and succeeding in college and now are succeeding in the international game, if they're not asked to keep their back foot down, then why are we asking them to do it in college? There's no college football rule that is asked of, like, you have to do this in college football, but you don't have to do it in the NFL. If anything, it's the other way around. In NFL, you have to have both feet in, right? And then the college rule, just one foot. In the touchbacks for a punt, it's a little bit more lax in the college game. Every rule that is different in college, in other sports, is a little bit more of the lax, or they're pulling off the reins a little bit. So why are we holding college softball players to the higher standard of you got to get that foot down, right, when you're pitching? It doesn't make any sense. And I think it should be done away with, especially because you can't call it consistently. I am on the minority that do like the out-of-the-box rule. I think slappers should be able to adjust to keep their feet in the box. I think if you let a slapper get her whole foot out of the box and take her whole momentum to the outside corner, it completely takes away the outside corners of the pitcher. So I'm of the minority that like the out-of-the-box rule. With this high level of slappers, I don't think it's hard to ask them, hey, make the adjustment and keep your foot in the box. There's a lot of slappers that are able to do it well. And the slappers that don't, they get caught for it, always say, well, this is stupid. And, I had to half my foot out of the box. Hey, it gives you an advantage. It lets you get even further outside with your barrel, and it takes away the outside pitch advantage to the pitcher. And that makes the pitcher have to pitch way outside to get you to swing and miss, which means they can't work the corners, and it's a competitive advantage to the hitter. So I like the out-of-the-box rule in college. I like it in high school. Like I said, we take the reins out a little bit. High school, you have to have your whole foot out of the box, or it's fine. If you have half your foot out of the box, as long as any part of your foot is in the box in high school, you're fine. That's cool. The lower level you get, the more lax you get with the rule. In college, which is the highest level of the sport other than international, and it's the same international as well, you should have to keep your whole foot in the box if you're a slapper or any hitter. If you make contact with your foot out of the box, that should be an out. This is my opinion. A lot of people wanted to go back to what it was where your whole foot has to be out of the box. I'm sitting here thinking these are the best players in the world, and let's hold them to a standard. All right, those are my opinions. Those are my TED Talks for softball. The rules and the changes that are coming, maybe coming in the rules committee for softball. I hear they're also trying to do a pitch clock in softball, which is just trying to speed things up. There are times when they take a little bit long, but softball is much quicker than baseball. I don't think you need a pitch clock either. I think it's kind of, most pitches, once they get the ball back from the catcher, take maybe at the most 15 seconds to throw the next pitch, which baseball before this pitch clock rule was like a good 30 seconds sometimes before you would get the next pitch in. So I don't know if you need a 10-second pitch clock necessarily in college. They're just trying to make the game more efficient. I get it. That's my TED Talk for everybody. So we're going to sign off today for today's episode of Running Point. Remember that Class B baseball back in action tonight on ysnlive.com. Tim Corso, Matt Maher, and Cooper Chavone all on the call down there at Scene 16U action. Check the Class B schedule for when teams are playing and what field they're playing on. We'll be back tomorrow for the recaps of all that. And Scotty Mitchell will be in with us. And it's always fun when Scotty comes to town. So we'll see you tomorrow on Running Point from 1 to